Hello, everybody. This is Spider from Crescendo Games. I'm trying out something, so if the audio isn't good, let me know in the comments, and we will find a way to do this differently. But I thought I'd shoot this while I was driving. So, I've been thinking about this recently. I've been thinking about the topic recently because I've been reading a lot of AD&D, first edition. And one of the things that really jumps out at me when I'm reading that edition is the whole idea of clubhouse play, which the Bro SR brings up. They talk about it a lot. They talk about it all the time, actually. And I actually think that's a really, really interesting idea. This idea that, it's not really something I really thought of before. And the Bro SR calls what they do clubhouse play, while they call what most contemporary RPGs do basement play, which I don't think is, some of them mean it pretty pejoratively. I don't think it's really a pejorative thing simply because you have to have a term. And I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, that's exactly where I was playing these games. I was playing them in the basement with my friends. So, I guess you could take it insultingly if you like, but I don't think it's really meant that way. So, but I was thinking about the fact that there was a social environment assumed for, 0E and 1E and all of that. And I realized that actually I had thought of something like that for Crescendo. And so I thought I'd talk about that because Crescendo is not inherently a clubhouse game. Crescendo is also not a basement game. Crescendo is actually something very different. The conditions that Crescendo is meant to be played under are not basement play, and they're not clubhouse play either. There's something very, very, very different. I designed Crescendo. One second. As I guess you could call it a study game, or parlor game or something like that. The idea was that it would happen in a much smaller social environment. Let's say like 1 to 3 players plus the Weaver. So anywhere from 2 to 4 people. 4 people would be a very, very large crowd. Whereas, your average size for a Crescendo group is, 3 people, 2 players and a Weaver. And the actual playtime of Crescendo is meant to be much, much, much shorter. It's supposed to be, anywhere from an hour to maybe 2 hours of play. And I've actually done personally lower time counts than that even. You have to get a little enterprising with the pacing, but you can do it. And so it's just interesting to me that and I built Crescendo with the idea that it would have that many people. It would only take about that amount of time. It wasn't meant as a big blockbuster type of a game. It was meant to be quieter, take less time, in theory, take less brute force to pull off. There's less people who need to be, there's less people that you need to call in for it. The people that you do call in don't have to stay as long, and everybody can get in a good story. Everyone can get in a good unpredictable amount of time, and a good unpredictable story or narrative with some really good gameplay, and then that's it. You're done. And I think part of it is that, I mean, in my current situation, I can't do Clubhouse. Heck, I can barely even pull off Basement, where there's like 4 people who are playing, 4 or 5 or 6 people who have 4 to 6 hours of time a week. I don't have that time. I just don't. And most of the people that I know who I play with don't have that amount of time either. They only have about an hour and a half to 2 hours a week. That's it. And they can only really afford to, play at particularly weird times. And they don't really mind, the lower player count. And what I found is that it actually gets people really focused. If there's less people, everybody focuses a little bit better. They walk in wanting to get their stuff done. We have a great time, narrating the game. We have a great time with the rules coming in and upsetting the apple cart at every which way. And then when it's done, it's done. You can feel it. Like, there, if you go and if you watch, I'll have to link it in the comments. But if you watch the Dunder Moose live play that I did on his channel, you'll find that was only about an hour and a half long, as far as gameplay was concerned. And when it was done, everybody was happy with it. We played until we were like, okay, good spot to stop. So, I don't think the shorter play time is actually a bad thing. If anything, it's really nice. There isn't an expectation, and I think part of it is just simply that the social environment is different, and the mechanics are built for a smaller venue. So, whereas like there was at one point when I was talking to Prince of Nothing, who writes on the who writes his review blog about AD&D, and he always said that it felt like more of an expedition sort of a game. A lot of time was spent on logistics. A lot of time was spent figuring out who was doing what and when. And I've played more than a few sessions of Acts 2 by this point, and I can see what he's talking about. A good clubhouse game has a lot of logistics to it. It has a lot of, I'm going to go shop over here really quick, and then I'll let you know when I'm done picking that stuff up. You're going to go make sure that our people over there are doing okay. There's kind of an interesting wrinkle inside of this larger group mentality that includes logistics as part of the game. And it's not that Crescendo doesn't have that. It kind of does. It's just that it doesn't have it in the same, we are a team and we need to make sure that all our ducks are in a row. Crescendo was never built to do that. It's even more PvP than I think people really anticipate. Crescendo can be intensely PvP, actually. And again, that kind of thing is possible because the actual social group is smaller. It's possible for people to rub elbows against each other and bump heads because there are less pieces on the board. It gets much more deliberate. Crescendo's play environment being smaller means that everything you do is noticed and felt a lot more. If someone starts doing something that looks like it's about to rub up against another player, it's not like in a 4 to 6 person game wherever if you might start planning against someone else inside of a larger session. And I remember this from my 3.5 days, where yes, 3.5 can have PvP. It's not terribly good PvP, but you can do it. And players it would take a little while for everybody to catch on to what was going on. It just would. There were more people. Inside Crescendo, that is definitely not the case. Things are smaller, and so every last little thing you do is noticed and remarked upon almost immediately. And so conflicts come up in inter party, inter player conflict comes up. When it comes up really fast, and it is dealt with very quickly, because there isn't anything else to distract you from it. And so people will intentionally go after each other, because it's fun and because there's no distraction from doing it. And this lends to a kind of intimacy in playing that you're not going to get in the clubhouse. That's why I call it like a parlor, or a study, or however you want to put it. I still don't have a good term for it. If you have a good term, put it in the comments or whatever. Assuming anybody can even hear what I'm saying. We'll see, right? Because if this works, you better believe I'm going to keep doing it. So because everything is smaller, there's this quiet sort of a thing going on with the game. In like I've done most of my play testing online, but the times when I have played in person, Crescendo is always slotted in very naturally with other stuff going on. The people that I've played with in person, Crescendo's like something you do at the end of the night. You get together, you play a bunch of video games, you have dinner, and you're doing other things. And then once you do whatever video games or whatever board games or whatever it is you're doing, then at the end of the night, as other people are leaving, the few people that are actually playing Crescendo sit down and they play. And the times that I've played it, it's actually been kind of like an extended goodbye ritual, sort of. Where, we were sitting out on the porch and, looking out into the dark street as we were playing, and you'd have like a porch light on, and people would pull out their flashlights to, off their phones to write in their journals, because you don't really need the journals as much as it looks like. And sometimes you don't need journals or dice at all, because people are just interested in a very particular thing that night. The other thing that's really nice about the social environment is because narration is first, that means that some sessions are just very quiet and relaxed. Everyone is just focused on just having the best story that they're able to tell at that moment, and sometimes that just means talking. And those sessions of play are pretty slow, but not badly so. It's just people are just talking it out. They're catching up on plot points from that they missed while they were out doing other things, or their world building together, or other things like that. And so during those times, whenever I was able to do it in person, you just sit around and basically, a somewhat, a dim room, just, relaxed against the couch, just talking and, playing things out and seeing where it goes. And then if it starts to heat up, if gameplay starts to get more heated and contested, all of a sudden, the lights are turned up a little bit more, or someone's pulled out their flashlight and is, grabbing their dice and be like, hold up, no, I don't actually want that. So it's this, like, the environment that Crescendo was designed for is this quieter, slower, more relaxed sort of pace. I don't actually see what would be wrong with a bunch of people doing Crescendo after their big clubhouse game. And in fact, that was also something that I thought about while I was designing it. I don't know about you guys, but I usually find inside of a larger game, inside of a larger group, there's always there's always like 2 or 3 people that click in a different way with each other than they do everyone else. And they gel in a way together that no one else at the table does. And long after the other session is done, after the big, basement or clubhouse or whatever game is going on, after that's ended, they're still hanging out and they're still talking. I don't know about you guys, but I found that those people always want to be running something sort of in tandem, or in parallel or something like that. But, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Dungeons and Dragons of any edition doesn't work that well with 2 or 3 people. You can make it work, but it's not the same. It just isn't. And Crescendo can also fit into that. I was definitely thinking of that when I designed the game. Almost like this little thing that the people that are really clicking together at that particular time can run on their own without a whole lot of effort. They're going to be there anyway. And they want to talk about different things than what they're talking about with the clubhouse or the basement. There's always those people inside of that group. And if you're listening to this or watching this, and hopefully you can hear me, if you're doing that and if you're like, wow, that actually, yes, well then great. Crescendo was in some way, shape, or form designed to fit that need. And I hope you check it out. I hope you try it. I'm coming up on the house here, so if you like what you hear, if what you hear, resonates with you or whatever, like, subscribe, all that, and then go and download the QuickStart. That's in the description. Go in and download the Ashcan. Throw me a few bucks if you can. And then if you really like what you see, or if you just want to talk, hop on the Discord server. There's some really, really cool people on there. For whatever reason, they put up with me. They've been helping me make the text clearer, and I really appreciate that. And if you have feedback on how to do that, please hop on there. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, I hope that everyone is doing okay today. I am now at my destination. I will see if the volume works. If the volume works, this is going to be happening a lot more often. Y'all take care.